Hi, everyone, and welcome to ABCs of Anesthesia. And this is going to go out as a podcast and on our YouTube channel, ABCs of Anesthesia. Today's an episode all about mentoring. So thanks, Malik, for joining us. Now, Malik, I was really happy when you came to me with this idea of starting our own mentoring program. I think it's just a space that's just really important. There's lots of people out there who aren't in a tertiary hospital or don't have access to ready mentors. And so, yeah, thanks very much for developing this program with me. And I just think it's going to be a really, really great success. So yeah, welcome, Malik. Tell us a bit about yourself first and where you're at with your training. And then, we'll go from there.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me on here, Lahiru. So everyone, I'm Malik. I am a critical care resident at the moment. I'll be starting anesthetics training next year. And having gone through the application process for the college and realizing how much of a new experience it is and the great advantage of having a mentor to guide me through that process was for me. We thought about setting up this program. So there's a lot of interest in terms of residents wanting to be mentored. But at the moment, I think we're really looking for mentors to be part of this program. And so we'll talk a little bit about the program and about mentorship as well. So Lahiru, can you tell us a bit about your mentoring experiences? Why be a mentor?
Yeah, look, I think we're going to go through a lot of this in the fact that having mentors is this just really important process that I think all of us throughout our careers have had a mentor of some sort. Often it just happens organically where you just meet someone and you form a relationship and, people want to help each other. So I know that, without my mentor, I know there's very little chance I would have gone on to anesthetic training. Just the insight that my mentor had was just incredible. And I had a few, but one, specific mentor who just guided me every single step of the way, just saying, this is what I did. And that personal experience was they were successful and that's what they did. And I really just tried to copy and emulate what they did with a few adjustments. So I think from a mentor, so now on the other side of things, I've been a mentor for many people through the last decade. And it's just a really satisfying thing. So I think if you're anyone who's, at any level, you can be a mentor. All you have to be is 1 year ahead, or even a colleague of someone as well. So even if you've just gone to anesthetic training, that's specifically who we're looking for. So basic training years, even advanced trainees. This is a group of people who've just applied for the program and kind of know the ins and outs of the recent kind of culture of anesthesia training in Australia and Melbourne and Victoria. So yeah, I think it's just a great way of giving back. I mean, paying it forward. Like I loved doing that because someone did it for me. So paying it forward is just really, really important. But also the fact that your training years are really short. So Malik, you'll be my colleague in 5 years or so, it's just, I hate to think of it as a hierarchical thing because in the long game, it's just not, you often become mates with the people who are your residents a few years before. Once they become consultants, you're all kind of at the same level. So I think that's really important to know, and having that ability to help someone and getting all that good feeling really fosters, great relationship, and also into the future. Just a lot of the projects I do, I've done it with my trainees or with my mentors in the past, and it started off by having that mentor-mentee relationship. So I think, just a really good way of progressing your career and feeling good and paying it forward and all these good things.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're very correct about them having gone through that experience, knowing all the ins and outs. And I guess the biggest advantage is the fact that you're not having to reinvent the wheel. So if you are getting advice as to how to do something that you're working towards, and then that means you can save all the energy and time you would have spent figuring out on making it even better. So I think it's a win-win situation.
Yeah. And I think, you've also mentioned in these notes, like just having that ability you're forming leadership skills, you're learning how to teach, you're learning how to, nurture someone else. I think it's just really important. So we really want some mentors to be part of this. So if you're interested, we'll put a link in the story notes. There's also a QR code in the Instagram page as well, ABCs of Anesthesia, so you can have a look at that. So please, I'll try to release this as soon as possible because we want to get started from March, pretty much. So I'll get this out very soon. So why don't we get started with the whole program and what it looks like? So Malik, how did this idea formulate? Where did it come from?
Okay, so I guess it's two main things that really have led to us starting this program. For me personally, mentorship has been something that I've been involved in for quite a number of years now, and it's something that I naturally navigate towards. But the second is, like I said, having just gone through these application processes, realizing how new and stressful it can be, having someone who's your senior there to help you, guide you through the process, even practical, simple things like I'll review your CV, give you a bit of tips here, a bit of advice about your cover letter, interview practice. All those things made a huge difference for me. And so, I guess finding a mentor is the biggest challenge in establishing a mentor-mentee relationship. And so, having my previous experiences with mentorship, recognizing that this is an area where there is a significant advantage of having that relationship, we thought we'd set it up and, make it easier or facilitate starting this relationship for residents and registrars.
Yeah, excellent. So what do you think the purpose of this mentoring program will be?
Look, I think the biggest goal, I guess, the mentee would have in this relationship is being successful in getting onto the anesthetics program. So these are all residents that are interested in anesthesia. They're at a stage of their junior doctor years where they're ready to apply for the program in 2023. And so the biggest focus or purpose is going to be to help guide them through that process. I suppose my personal experiences over the past year have been practical things that I've really found useful where towards the start of the year, perhaps say it was April or March, was going through my CV, giving advice on how to change that a little bit, working on my cover letter. But I guess later on in the year, the biggest help that I found was preparing for the interviews and having someone who's not necessarily your best mate, someone you're not very comfortable with, but comfortable with enough. Practicing these interviews with them adds a little bit of an element of anxiety, which I think is actually really good because it prepares you really well for the actual day when you've got 5 consultants sitting in front of you and they're judging every word that you say. So practicing with a little bit of anxiety, I think, actually prepares you really well. So that's sort of the purpose of it towards the start. But at the same time, there's a big element of emotional support. It is stressful. You don't know what's going to happen, whether you're successful or not. And if you say you were not successful, then you get really good advice as to what your backup plans should be, how to manage that, how to process it. So I think
that sounds great. It really is. They've been through everything before. You're getting someone there who just knows. Often they know what to say, like, oh yeah, don't worry about that, or hey, just fix this on your CV. Like it's often really low level fruit that you haven't even thought about, and it's just someone who's done it before and recently. And I know, my sister's probably a big mentor for me. She just tells me something as simple as, yeah, you'll be right. Don't worry about it. That's not a problem. And then I just believe it, and I feel better about it. So I think, yeah, all of these things are just, again, low level fruit. And as a mentor, you're not spending that much time. You're just giving really crucial tips that would otherwise be, go unheard or never spoken to the mentee about. And again, can really, drastically improve their chances.
Well, you're right. Yeah. And it is not that much of a time commitment. So this program we're hoping to run between March and October. So March is when residents tend to start preparing their application. And then the aim would be to meet up perhaps once or twice a month. So over an 8-month period, you're meeting maybe 8 or up to 16 times for short meetings. So it's an 8-month mentorship program for that period of application. So that's very much the focus. And it could be things like, over Zoom, not necessarily in person. And so that also facilitates or takes away the time of getting to a place and meeting up with a mentee. So
yeah, it can be quite efficient. Hey, so what makes a mentoring relationship successful?
Well, that's a really good question. And I think probably the biggest thing is very early on setting your goals together with the mentor and having those clear at the start. Because the biggest advantage or I guess use of a mentor you can have is understanding how you can reach those goals. So having the goals clear at the start is really important, I think. Along those lines, perhaps it's being mentee driven. Now, this relationship will be quite dynamic. So what different meetings will be at different times can change. And again, like a mentee may want more help with their interview practice or interview technique. Others may just want to talk about career planning, career advice, how to prepare for the training program. So I guess it's goal setting, being mentee driven, and then also honest communication and being committed to the program are the main things in a successful mentor-mentee relationship.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you've got to set goals And even, I guess, the mentor can help you identify these goals, because again, there's a lot of unknowns. So just knowing the time frames, knowing when to start things. I think people always prep for interviews far too late. So, every time I give advice is, you probably need to start 2 months and just get stuff ready, and maybe really go hard at month before at least. But I'm always surprised if people have started a week before, because it's almost like studying for an exam. It's a bit crazy now. And yeah, mentee driven. I mean, your mentors, obviously they're not going for the job. It's not their highest priority, but the fact that they can give you very good advice very quickly means that you've just got to chase that down and find the useful information that you want to find. So what would the meetings involve?
So I guess we touched on that a little bit earlier, but it'll be Zoom meetings or in-person meetings where it is quite dynamic. It can change. So meetings that I had with my mentor last year, towards the start, we didn't even need to meet. I would just email them my CV, and then they would edit it and email it back to me. But then later on, it was more about interviews. So we actually did a full dry run of the interview. I've put on my suit, put on a mask because we didn't know whether we were going to be wearing masks or not.
Oh, yeah.
Walked in, did a full interview over 20 minutes, and then got some feedback. So I guess what they will involve can change quite a bit. But I guess the focus is going to be very much on applications, preparing for anesthetics training, and working towards that goal.
Yeah, okay. Hey, so I thought, I think this is a good summary of what this mentor program will be like, and maybe mentoring in general. Can you think of a few really just great pieces of advice you've received from your mentor, just as a practical thing for people listening?
Practical advice that I got. I guess the one that made the biggest difference to me is it was about interviews. I never realized that I use my hands quite a bit when I'm speaking. I guess I'm doing it right now. And so their biggest advice was hold on to the bottom of the table when you're doing your interview, or, hold your hands together because they can be quite distracting. So it's something that I never would have noticed myself going through, but having someone else notice that for me, I guess made a big difference. That, as well as the other advice that I received, was finding someone else who is applying at the same time, and really just having them as someone you practice with quite regularly throughout the time, and having someone that you're not really competing with, and just being clear at the start that, we're going to work towards this goal together. We're not going to compete with each other, and then working towards that. So finding one of my colleagues who was also applying was a big difference. So that was really good advice that I received at the start.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember one of my mentors, it was, again, to do with interviews. He'd set up just PowerPoint slides with question and his answers to it. I thought, that's such a good way of doing this. Like it means that it's not on a Google document. It's not on a document that I can read the answers. Like it literally is as if someone's asking me a question and I'm trying to look at it. I thought, I've still got those slides, and I often give those slides to anyone who asks, really. But that was just so useful for giving them to someone else to ask me questions, as well as practicing by myself. And I think what else was just really useful? They just kind of told me what I needed to be aware of, like things like how to get a reference, or how to ask for a specific job or rotation from the medical workforce, and just these little things like that you'd never think about. Like there's just so many hidden gems and insider tips, and really a good mentor should know this stuff, or just any of your colleagues who are a year or two ahead.
Well, exactly. And it's also like sharing the experience of the actual interview was quite useful as well, because it's information that you wouldn't find anywhere else. But then explaining to you, there's going to be 5 consultants. It's going to be questions along this line. This person is nice. This person may be mean, but that's just who they are. Yeah. Those little things, I think, has made a big difference.
That's right. Yeah. Don't take it personally. If someone's not smiling at you, it's not because they hate you. It's just that's maybe just the way they are taught to present, or that's just the
it could be 4 p.m. and they've listened to the same answer for the last 5 hours. So.
I really, for my trainee job, I really have the feeling, man, I think this person really hates me. Like, and maybe they did. I don't know. I got the job, so it's all right. I do think CVs are a big thing. Like even now, I've had some people who want to volunteer for helping out ABC Anesthesia, and some of their CVs are fantastic. And others, I thought, they're great CVs from a content point of view, but the presentation easily could be improved. And I thought, just having someone lay eyes on it. And CVs are so difficult to read from your own point of view, just having someone go, actually, you know what, you just need to redo this and make it look sharp. I think that's a really often I give that advice to someone to just pay someone to do a professional CV for you. You know, you go on Upwork or Fiverr, one of those internet sites, someone will probably do it $50 to $200, which is so worth it to have that first impression where you go, oh, that looks like a nice CV. And you see this because people who, you know, sadly, I think a lot of the international graduates who apply, their CVs just don't look like the local grad CVs. And often, like they you know, from what we value in the Australian system and our cultural thing, it hasn't really transferred to a lot of other people from other countries. And I think, oh, look, if anyone from international is, you know, listening to this, if you're applying for a job in Australia, especially, you've got to make your CV look like the Australian CVs. Like, just there's a sleekness to them, and that first impression, I think, is unofficially really important.
Now, Lahiro, can I ask, I know you, like through your position, you look at a lot of CVs in terms of residents applying for different positions. Seeing mentorship experience on the CV, how important is that to you?
Yeah, I think there's a few low-level, again, low-level fruit things that you can do. And so often people have quite a number of things that everyone has. So, you know, they've done a few courses in anesthesia, they've done some teaching, they've done some mentoring, they've done some volunteering. It's just one of those important things that I think everyone has done. So I think it's almost like a rite of passage. You should probably have done it. It's not the highest level thing. Like, it's not like you've published a few papers or got a PhD or started your own thing in something. Like, those are extremely impressive. I think having a mentorship position is just one of those, I think, pretty important things that you've put yourself out there and you've helped. So it definitely looks good on your CV.
Excellent.
That's probably good. I think we've given the brief of it. Like, we'll definitely have the link in the story notes if you'd like to be a mentor. Unfortunately, we have so much interest in being a mentee that we've had to close that off for now. As we do this first iteration, hopefully we'll have ability to expand it to more and more people who really need this service in the next year. And in the future, we'll also set up an online kind of course style website where you can get all these resources that we've developed as well. So looking forward to that. I think that's probably a good chat, and we can probably end it for now.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on here, Lahiro, and for your support for this program.
Malik, I'm just so glad you really pushed to start this, because I think it's going to be fantastic. So thanks everyone for watching and listening to ABCs of Anesthesia, and please share with anyone who might be interested. Please click the link if you'd like to be a mentor, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, what's new with ABCs of Anesthesia is that we're forming a whole bunch of very comprehensive courses for every stage of your anesthetic journey, from medical student to procedural skills, from foundations in anesthesia, as well as really important exam lectures and clinical anesthesia courses as well.